Many retirees are surprised by how small their income feels, not because they saved too little, but because more of it goes to taxes than they expected. Taxes don't disappear in retirement, they change. And misunderstanding that change is one of the most common retirement mistakes. During working years, taxes are familiar. They come out of paychecks. They feel automatic. In retirement, taxes feel different. They show up quietly. They reduce withdrawals. They make income feel unpredictable. This is where frustration begins. Over 15 years of working with retirees, I've watched tax surprises undermine retirement confidence more often than most people realize. Not because retirees were ignoring taxes completely, but because they were thinking about retirement income the same way they thought about working income. And those two things are fundamentally different. When you're working, your employer withholds taxes. You see your net paycheck. You build your life around that after-tax number. In retirement, the process is less visible, less automatic, and far easier to miscalculate. I've sat with people who plan to withdraw $5,000 per month from their retirement accounts. They built their budget around that number. They felt confident. Then they took their first withdrawal and discovered that after federal taxes, state taxes, and any required withholding, they were actually receiving closer to $4,000. That $1,000 difference every month is $12,000 per year. Over 10 years, that's $120,000 they didn't account for. That gap changes everything. Many people assume that once they stop working, their tax burden will naturally fall. Sometimes it does, but often it doesn't. And for some retirees, it increases. That's because retirement income is taxed differently depending on where it comes from. Social Security may be partially taxable. Traditional retirement accounts are usually fully taxable. Other income sources may be taxed in different ways. When retirees don't understand this mix, they focus on gross income instead of net income. And net income is what actually matters. Let me give you a concrete example. Two retirees each have $800,000 saved. They're both planning to withdraw $40,000 per year. The first retiree has everything in a traditional IRA. Every dollar withdrawn is taxable income. After federal and state taxes, they're keeping roughly $32,000. The second retiree has half their savings in a traditional IRA and half in a Roth IRA. They withdraw $20,000 from each account. The traditional IRA portion is taxable, but the Roth portion is not. Their after-tax income is closer to $36,000. Same starting balance, same gross withdrawal, but a $4,000 annual difference in what they actually keep. Over 20 years, that's $80,000. That difference didn't come from better investment returns or smarter saving. It came from understanding how different accounts are taxed. This creates a common problem. Someone plans to withdraw a certain amount each month, but what arrives in their account is less than expected. Not because of poor planning, but because taxes weren't fully considered. That shortfall creates stress. People start questioning spending. They feel uncertain. They adjust reactively. This is the retirement tax mistake, planning income without planning taxes. I've worked with retirees who felt blindsided by tax bills they didn't anticipate. They knew taxes existed, but they underestimated the impact. They assumed retirement would automatically mean lower taxes because their total income was lower. But lower income doesn't always mean proportionally lower taxes. If most of your retirement income comes from taxable sources, you're still paying significant taxes, even if your total income has dropped. And if you're receiving Social Security on top of retirement account withdrawals, a portion of your Social Security may become taxable as well. That's a tax consequence many people don't see coming. Social Security taxation works on a combined income formula. The more you withdraw from traditional retirement accounts, the more of your Social Security becomes taxable. So withdrawing more to cover expenses can trigger additional taxes on income you thought was untaxable. That interaction is invisible until it shows up on your tax return. Another issue is timing. When and how income is taken can change how much tax is owed. Two retirees with the same savings can experience very different tax outcomes depending on withdrawal structure. This is why some retirees feel squeezed, even with solid portfolios. It's not always about how much they saved. It's about how income flows through the tax system. Here's what this looks like in practice. A retiree needs $50,000 to cover expenses. They could take the entire amount from a traditional IRA. That $50,000 would be fully taxable. Or they could take $30,000 from the traditional IRA and $20,000 from a Roth IRA. Now only $30,000 is taxable. Or they could take $25,000 from the traditional IRA, $15,000 from a Roth, and $10,000 from taxable brokerage accounts with long-term capital gains treatment. Each structure produces a different tax outcome, and those differences compound over time. The retirees who feel most in control are those who think about tax efficiency from the beginning. They don't just ask, "How much should I withdraw?" They ask, "Which accounts should I withdraw from, and in what order, to minimize taxes over the long term?" That question changes behavior. Retirees who feel confident usually do something different. They focus on after-tax income. They ask, "How much of this money do I actually keep?" That shift changes decisions. It affects when withdrawals happen. It affects which accounts are used. It affects flexibility later in retirement. I've seen retirees discover that by adjusting their withdrawal strategy, they could keep an extra $5,000 to $8,000 per year without changing their total withdrawals at all. Just by being more intentional about which accounts they used and when. That's not about gaming the system. That's about understanding the system. Taxes are not just a one-year issue. They affect the entire retirement timeline. A small tax inefficiency repeated over decades can quietly shrink income. Let me show you what that looks like. Someone withdraws $60,000 per year from a traditional IRA for 30 years. They pay an average effective tax rate of 20%. Over 30 years, that's $360,000 paid in taxes. If they had structured withdrawals differently, using a mix of accounts, timing Social Security more strategically, converting some traditional IRA funds to Roth earlier, they might have reduced their effective rate to 15%. That would save $90,000 over the same period. $90,000 that could have been spent on health care, travel, family support, or simply stayed invested for later needs. That's the real cost of ignoring tax planning in retirement. This doesn't require complex strategies to understand. It requires awareness, knowing that taxes still exist, knowing that income sources are treated differently, knowing that structure matters. The retirees who feel most confident about their income are those who planned for taxes as seriously as they planned for savings. They didn't assume everything would work out. They didn't wait until tax season to think about it. They treated tax planning as part of retirement planning, not separate from it. And that foresight gave them more control, more flexibility, and ultimately, more after-tax income to enjoy. Because at the end of the day, what you withdraw doesn't matter as much as what you keep. A retiree withdrawing $50,000 but keeping $42,000 is better off than someone withdrawing $60,000 but keeping only $45,000. Higher withdrawals don't always mean higher income. Sometimes they just mean higher taxes. In future videos, we'll explore how different retirement income sources are taxed, why planning withdrawals matters, and how retirees reduce tax stress by planning ahead. No hype, no loopholes, just clarity. Because in retirement, what you keep matters more than what you earn.